She defended her best friend every time I tried to defend our marriage. One dinner showed me exactly where I stood. And that's the night I finally walked away. If you ever want to know where you really stand with someone, let them choose between their best friend and their spouse and then just watch what they do when no one thinks you'll walk away. I used to joke that my wife married me, but she was in a long-term relationship with her phone. If it lit up and it was him, Ethan, her male best friend, she'd answer in half a breath, laughing before she even said hello. If it was me, I'd get the "I'll call you right back" text that sometimes never came. For a long time, I told myself it didn't bother me. I grew up around a lot of women, had plenty of female friends. I understood the whole men and women can be just friends thing. I believed it. I wanted to believe it. And besides, when we first got married, Ethan was just this name that floated around our house the way old college stories do. He helped me study. He drove me home when my car broke down. He was there when my grandpa passed. Always there. That was the theme. I met him once in passing at our wedding. Quick handshake, stiff smile, a joke about finally giving him away. At the time, I thought it was just awkward humor. Now, looking back, it feels like the prelude to a punchline I didn't know I was part of. The shift started small. We'd be on the couch watching a movie and her phone would buzz. She'd tilted away just a little. Not enough to be obvious, just enough that I'd catch myself wondering why. Then came the late-night calls because he's going through something, the inside jokes I wasn't part of, the way she'd light up when his name popped up on the screen in a way she didn't for mine anymore. Anytime I tried to talk about it, she'd sigh and say I was being insecure. He's like, "My brother, Mark. You know you're my husband. Why are you threatened by him?" I didn't know how to answer that without sounding jealous. So I'd shrug it off, make some self-deprecating joke, and change the subject. It was easier to doubt myself than to doubt her. Then came the dinner. It was supposed to be a simple Friday night, her idea actually. She said she wanted me and Ethan to bond, to finally get comfortable around each other. I told myself this was a good sign. If she wanted us to be friends, that had to mean she had nothing to hide, right? We met at this trendy little place downtown, all dim lights and reclaimed wood. The kind of spot where they serve water like it's an event. She walked in a few steps ahead of me, spotted him, and her face just changed. That soft, glowing smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. She hugged him like she'd been holding her breath all week and finally got air. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself a lot of things that night. We sat down, the three of us, at a small round table near the window. He and my wife took the seats facing each other without even thinking about it, like muscle memory. I ended up on the side, almost like the referee in a match I didn't sign up for. Ethan started talking immediately. He had one of those voices that fills a room, even when he isn't being loud. Stories about work, about mutual friends from college, about this wild road trip they'd taken years before she and I even met. She laughed at every story, touching his arm, leaning in like she couldn't miss a word. Every time I tried to join in, they'd do that quick glance at each other first, like they were silently checking if my comment passed some inside joke filter. I felt like a substitute teacher walking into a classroom where everyone already knew the lesson and the jokes at the teacher's expense. At one point, the waiter came by to refill our water. Ethan smirked and said, "You better bring this guy a beer. He looks like he needs something to loosen up." I smiled because that's what you do. I made some comment about a long week at work, but it dug at me. I wasn't tense before he said it. I was just observing, trying to figure out where exactly I fit in between the two of them. The more he talked, the more I noticed how often he used the word "we" when he looked at her. "We used to come here all the time. Remember when we stayed up all night before that final? Man, we have been through some stuff." That word hit me like a flick to the forehead every time. We. Eventually, the conversation drifted to our marriage, how long we'd been together, how we met, the regular small talk. My wife smiled and squeezed my hand on the table, like she remembered I existed. "Yeah," she said, "Mark's solid. He's steady, you know? Really dependable." It sounded like she was describing a car. Ethan chuckled, swirling his drink. "Yeah, dependable is one word for it." I looked up. "What's that supposed to mean?" He shrugged, not even bothering to look sorry. "Relax, man. I'm just saying she could do way better than you. For a second, I thought I'd misheard him. The restaurant noise, clinking dishes, low music. It all went quiet in my head. I watched my wife's face to see her reaction, expecting instant outrage, expecting her to shut him down. Instead, she laughed. Not loudly, but enough. A little embarrassed giggle, like Head said something slightly inappropriate but secretly harmless. Ethan, she said, swatting at him, don't be rude. Don't be rude. Not don't disrespect my husband. Not watch your mouth. Just don't be rude. Something in my chest tightened. I felt it like a rope pulled a little too hard. I set my fork down slowly, stared at him across the table, and that's when I decided I was done pretending this was just friendly banter. I leaned back in my chair and looked at him, really looked at him, like I was seeing him for the first time without the best friend label pasted over his face. You want to run that by me again? I asked, calm. Too calm. Ethan smirked, clearly enjoying the attention. I said she could do way better than you. Relax, man, it's a joke. She knows I'm kidding. He glanced at her, waiting for backup. My wife shifted, uncomfortable, but she didn't say what I needed her to say. She didn't tell him he was out of line. She didn't say I was the man she chose, that this wasn't funny. She just pressed her lips together and stared at the table. And that was it. Something inside me just settled, like a snow globe after you stop shaking it. I pushed my plate away and folded my hands in front of me. I said, Eve been trying really hard to like you, Ethan. For her. Eve been swallowing a lot of comments, a lot of jokes. But that right there, that's not a joke. That's disrespect. He rolled his eyes. Dude, you're being sensitive. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm just the only one at this table who remembers she's married to me. Not you. The table behind us went quiet. Someone had clearly started listening. I didn't care. I felt weirdly light. I turned to my wife. And what about you? You okay with him saying that to your husband? She looked caught, like a student called on in class without knowing the answer. Mark, it was just Ethan being Ethan. You know how he is. Can you not make a scene? There it was again. Don't rock the boat. Don't ruin the night. Don't make him uncomfortable. I nodded slowly. All right, let's fix this, then. I turned back to Ethan. You're going to apologize. He laughed, actually laughed out loud. For what? Saying the truth? The word stung more than I wanted to admit. Truth. I pushed past it. For disrespecting my marriage, I said. For disrespecting me. You're not just some random guy at a bar. You're supposed to be her friend. That means you're supposed to treat her choices with respect. He leaned in, eyes narrowed. Or what? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything or stand up. I just spoke clearly. Or you don't see her again. Simple as that. My wife's head snapped toward me like I'd slapped someone. Excuse me? I kept my eyes on Ethan. You don't get to sit across from my wife and tell her you think she's settled. You want to stay in her life? Then you show some respect to both of us. That starts with an apology. Now the whole restaurant felt like it was holding its breath. A couple at the next table pretended to look at their menus, but you could feel them listening. Ethan scoffed. Wow, you're really insecure, man. I finally looked at her. This is the man you call your best friend. This is how he talks about your husband to your face. If you're okay with that, then maybe we have a bigger problem than I thought. Her cheeks were flushed, a mix of embarrassment and anger. But it wasn't aimed at him. It was aimed at me. She grabbed her napkin, crumpling it in her fist. Ethan doesn't owe you anything. Stop acting like you can control who I'm friends with. I'm not trying to control anything, I said, still calm. I'm drawing a line. I won't sit here and let someone tear me down in front of my wife and call it just a joke. If he wants to stay in your life, he apologizes. If he doesn't, then he's made his choice. And so have you. Her eyes flashed. Apologize, she snapped at him, or we're over. For a heartbeat, I thought she meant me and her. The wording hit me sideways. Then I realized she was talking to him. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You're kidding. She shook her head, breathing hard. I'm not losing my husband over your stupid mouth. Just say you're sorry so we can move on. I watched the two of them, something hollow opening up inside me. That was the first time all night Shed really defended me, and even then, it sounded less like conviction and more like damage control. He looked back at me, then at her, jaw tight. "This is ridiculous." I smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "No need to apologize, Ethan." They both looked at me. I picked up my glass, took a slow sip of water, set it down. "Because I'm already done." I don't think they processed what I said at first. "Done with what?" my wife asked, brow furrowing. "Dinner," I said, standing up and laying my napkin on the table. "This conversation, this version of our marriage." Her chair scraped back. "Mark, sit down. You're overreacting. Maybe I was. Maybe I wasn't. But for once, I wasn't going to argue about my own feelings like they were up for debate." I pulled my wallet out, took a couple of bills, and slid them under my plate. "That should cover my part." Ethan let out this low whistle like I'd just done a card trick. "Wow. Dramatic exit much?" I looked at him one last time. "You'll understand one day, when someone you love laughs while another man tells her she settled by choosing you." He flinched just a flicker, but I saw it. My wife grabbed my arm. Her hand used to feel like home. Right then it felt like a question I didn't want to answer. "Mark, please, don't walk out. We can talk about this later." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "We never talk about it. We just bury it under jokes, and you're being sensitive." "I'm not doing that tonight." Her eyes were shining now, anger and panic mixing. "You're blowing everything up over one comment." I shook my head. "No. I'm walking away because one comment showed me exactly where I stand." For a second, it looked like she might follow me. But then Ethan spoke. "Just let him go," he muttered. "He'll cool off. He always does, right?" It was the way he said it. Confident, like he knew our patterns, like he'd watched us long enough to predict me. I saw her glance at him, torn, and then back at me. And in that split second, she stayed seated. That was all I needed. I walked out of the restaurant into the cool night air. The streetlights buzzed softly. Cars rolled by. Couples laughed on the sidewalk. Life went on, completely unaware that my view of my marriage had just shifted on its axis. I didn't slam the car door. I didn't peel out of the parking lot. I just sat there for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the reflection of my own face in the windshield. I looked tired. Not just from that night, years tired. Tired of feeling like the extra in my own relationship, like I was standing just off stage while someone else shared the spotlight with my wife. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I watched it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. I let it go to voicemail. On the drive home, my mind replayed the last few months like a highlight reel I hadn't realized I'd been filming. Her staying late at study sessions back when Ethan was helping her with her certification. The weekends she'd say she was grabbing coffee with him and come back a little too bright, a little too charged. The way she'd defend him so quickly, yet treat my concerns like a personal flaw I needed to fix. By the time I pulled into our driveway, I'd made another decision. I walked into our house. Our pictures on the walls, our shoes by the door, our life threaded through every inch of space. And suddenly it all felt like a set. Like props. Like I was walking through a scene we'd rehearsed so many times I'd stopped asking if it was real. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet and started packing. Not everything. Just enough. A few changes of clothes. My toiletries. Laptop. Charger. The basics of a man who doesn't know how long he'll be gone. But knows he can't stay. My phone buzzed with texts now. "Where did you go?" "Mark, answer me. We need to talk about this, not run away." The last one made me stop. Running away. That's what she always called it when I stepped back instead of standing there and taking whatever made her comfortable. If I didn't swallow my feelings on command, I was shutting down or avoiding conflict. Truth was, I wasn't avoiding conflict. I was avoiding humiliation. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. Not as some dramatic final statement, not yet. Just as a placeholder. A way of saying something's broken, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't. As I locked the front door behind me, the house looked different. Smaller, somehow. like it had shrunk around the space between who we used to be and who we'd become. I drove to a cheap motel off the highway, the kind with buzzing neon and doors that opened straight to the parking lot. Paid cash. Walked into a room that smelled vaguely like cleaning solution and old air. I sat on the edge of the bed, shoes still on, and listened to my phone vibrate on the nightstand. Call after call, text after text. Finally, one came in that made my stomach drop. If you walk out on me like this, I don't know if we can come back from it. I stared at those words for a long time, because what she didn't realize was that was exactly what I was starting to wonder too. The next morning, I called in sick to work and just sat. Stared at the motel ceiling, watched the fan blades circle like they were trying to hypnotize me into going back to the way things were. She called again and again. I finally answered around noon. Her voice came through tight, controlled. Are you done being dramatic? I almost laughed. If you honestly think that's what last night was, then no, I'm not done. Not yet. She sighed. We've been together for years, Mark. You're really going to throw that away over one stupid comment from Ethan? This isn't about one comment, I said. It's about the fact that he felt comfortable saying it. That you laughed. That you stayed at the table when I walked out. That you've been putting him first for a long time and calling me insecure when I noticed. Silence. You're twisting things, she said finally. You're making him the villain because you can't handle that we're close. I'm not twisting anything. I stared at the stained carpet. But I'm not going to fight for first place in my own marriage. We went in circles like that for a few days. Calls, texts, long, tense pauses. She cried. She yelled. She tried guilt. She tried reason. At one point, she said, maybe we need some time apart. I'm going to stay with a friend for a while. We both need to cool off. I didn't ask which friend. I didn't need to. The answer was baked into every late-night laugh, and he's like my brother speech ID ever heard. All right, I said. Take whatever time you need. Can we agree we're not making any big decisions until we talk in person? She asked. I hesitated, then said, we'll see where we're at when you're ready to really talk. She went quiet. Fine. Weeks went by. I moved into a small furnished apartment month to month. I started therapy, which is something I'd always told myself I didn't need. Turns out I needed it more than I knew. I talked about feeling like a backup option, about teaching myself to swallow hurt just to keep the peace, about how somewhere along the way, loving her turned into constantly auditioning for the role of good enough. My therapist asked me a question that stuck. If your best friend was describing his marriage to you the way you just did, she said, what would you tell him? I didn't even hesitate. I'd tell him he deserves better. And why is it so hard to say that to yourself? I didn't have an answer. While she was with a friend, I stopped checking her social media. But mutual friends didn't stop existing. Little comments slipped through. Picture at a bar. A tagged location. A familiar face in the background. Ethan. I remember staring at that photo one night, her laughing with her head thrown back, his arm just a little too close, their bodies angled toward each other like magnets, and feeling not surprise. Not even rage, really. Just confirmation. Maybe they hadn't crossed every line yet. Maybe they had. But emotionally, they'd crossed one a long time ago. I'd just finally caught up to it. So I got my own bank account, talked to a lawyer, started untangling our lives, thread by thread. Not out of spite, out of self-respect, out of finally believing my own pain instead of talking myself out of it. About 3 weeks later, she texted, I'm coming home tomorrow. We need to fix this. Something about the way she said home hit me, like it was the static place she could walk back into whenever she was ready, and everything in it, including me, would just be waiting where she left it. I didn't answer right away. I took the day, read through the messages between her and Ethan that I'd finally allowed myself to scroll back through. Little emotional confessions Shed told him before she ever told me. Comparisons between how thoughtful you are and how Mark just doesn't get it. It wasn't that Shed vented. Couples talk about each other to friends. It was the way Shed framed me like some obstacle she was enduring instead of a partner Shed chosen. That night, I wrote her a letter. Not a rage-filled manifesto. Just the truth laid out plainly. The next day, I met her at the house. She walked in like nothing fundamental had changed. Suitcase in one hand, phone in the other. She looked around, frowning a little at the emptiness where some of my things used to be. "You actually moved out?" she asked, setting her bag down. Seriously? I was standing in the living room, papers on the coffee table. My ring still on the nightstand upstairs. My chest steady in a way it hadn't been in a long time. "I did," I said. She came closer, searching my face. "Okay, look. I stayed with Ethan, yes. But nothing happened. We just talked. He was there for me when you wouldn't answer your phone." I nodded once. I figured. "You're not even mad?" she demanded. "I'm past mad," I said. "Mad means I'm still in this, still fighting to prove something. I'm just done." Her eyes widened, like the word finally registered as real. "You can't just decide that. We have history. We have vows. We had, I corrected softly. We had a marriage where I kept telling you I felt disrespected, and you kept telling me I was overreacting. We had a marriage where another man could sit across from you and tell you that you settled, and you laughed." She opened her mouth, closed it. I gestured to the papers. "These are separation documents. We can talk details, we can be civil, we can try to do this in a way that doesn't burn everything down. But I'm not going back to the version of us where I'm begging to be treated like a partner instead of an inconvenience." Tears filled her eyes. "So that's it? After everything, you're just walking away?" I swallowed. Still hurt. The idea of not being us anymore felt like ripping out a piece of my own identity. "I'm not walking away from everything," I said. "I'm walking away from being second choice in my own life." She shook her head, angry now. "You're going to regret this. No one will love you like I did." I let out a breath. That's kind of the point. For a moment we just stood there. The house around us, full of echoes. The fight we weren't having, the apologies that weren't coming, the version of the story where she looked at me and said, "You're right and I'm sorry and I'm going to fix this with you, not around you." That version never showed up. She finally picked up the papers with shaking hands. "So when you said you were done that night at the restaurant, this is what I meant," I said. "Done explaining why basic respect isn't optional. Done competing with a man who clearly wants my spot and a wife who won't move him out of it. Done asking to be chosen by someone who treats me like the safe option, not the loved one." Her tears spilled over. "I thought you were bluffing," she whispered. I nodded. "I know. There wasn't some big dramatic ending. No slammed doors. No thrown rings. Just a long, quiet afternoon of signatures and logistics and division. Furniture, accounts, holidays. Two people who used to dream about forever now negotiating over who got the coffee maker." Eventually, she left. Not in a storm of insults, just in shock. Holding a folder and a future she hadn't expected. Weeks later, after the legal part was basically settled, she texted me late one night. "I never believed you'd actually leave. I thought done meant you'd be mad for a while and then get over it. I didn't realize it meant done." I stared at the message for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I typed back. "That's the thing about people who don't listen when you're hurting. They never believe you'll really go until you're already gone." I hit send. Put my phone face down. Erase what I've learned. Done isn't yelling. It isn't slamming doors or breaking plates. It isn't the loud, messy endings you see in movies. Done is quiet. It's a man packing a bag in silence. It's a ring left on a nightstand. It's a signature on a line. It's the night you stop arguing about whether your pain is valid and start building a life where you don't have to convince someone to value you. I loved my wife. That was real. The history, the good times, the way we used to share everything. That was real too. So was the moment I watched her choose another man's comfort over my dignity. That's the moment our marriage truly ended. Everything after was just paperwork. And if there's any moral to this mess, it's this. Listen when the person you love says they're hurting. Don't wait until I'm upset turns into him leaving. Because once someone really learns what done feels like, going back isn't strength. It's forgetting what it took to finally walk away.